Hello and welcome to this week's Meet the Movie Press with special guest Josh Dickey. What we're going to cover this week? Well, there is so much to talk about as usual. Daniel Craig, Bond or not Bond? Is not reviewing a film the new reviewing a film? We discuss what's been going on in the world of Ghostbusters this week. The Rock is launching, surprise, surprise, a franchise, the Ludlum universe, and plenty more, including Sean Penn's new film being savaged in Cannes. And this week's big releases, Bad Neighbours 2, and more.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
Hello, what a week. And you might notice that I'm not Jeff. Jeff is taking a week off this week. I think he needed a bit of a lie down after last week, to be honest with you.
I am also not Jeff.
You are not Jeff, you are me.
However, and you know, may he rest as he needs to right now.
A nice lie down. Yeah, he will be back next week.
The rapscallion stallion.
So most of you will already know Josh Dickey from Mashable. For those of you who don't, Josh, who are you?
I'm just a kid from Minnesota. I really don't really have a whole lot more besides that. That's about as far as we go in the Midwest.
And you've done some brave things this week. You went to see Angry Birds.
I did. I saw it last night with a paying audience at 7 p.m.
Okay.
On opening night.
Everything you dream of when you get into this industry, really, isn't it?
It is. Listen, it is. You're not missing anything.
Okay.
Okay. But if you go, it's not a horrible experience. It's totally watchable. It's just a very unusual property to try to develop because you have to fit a mobile game into the narrative, and there's a lot of weird, awkward square pegs going into round holes of plot there.
Plot, the P word. Is there one?
Yeah, there's the red bird is he's kind of a dick, and he is not nice to people.
Right.
And he also is very cynical and very dark and sort of has this negative view on the world. And interestingly enough, where you think he's going to be somehow changed, instead that sort of distrustfulness pays off when he discovers that the pigs are not what they seem.
Damn them.
Because he's very, very cynical, you see.
How long is it?
Clock's about 140, I think. It's just about right. Maybe 10 minutes long for an animated film.
So who was in there? You went with the paying audience.
I went by myself with the paying audience, yes. I was the lone weirdo there because there's a lot of kids.
I was going to say, who is the audience?
Yeah, there's a lot of kids, and the kids loved it.
Okay.
Kids were dancing. Literally, there were kids dancing in the aisles after the movie. They popped at all the jokes, and they really dug it. So that's what it's for. That's why it's a movie that in perpetuity will make a ton of money, no matter what it does at the box office. And by all accounts, it's doing okay. So it's a weird one, but I kind of didn't hate it. I actually kind of enjoyed parts of it. There were some pretty clever comedy bits in it too.
Strong voice cast. Is it worth having a really good voice cast, or are they kind of wasted in that?
I'm so glad you asked me that, Simon.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
I have this terrible fear that what's happening is they're so attached to the idea of putting recognizable names in the voice cast of these animated movies when they just don't have to. And I'd much rather hear really great voice actors. And some of them are. Josh Gad is amazing.
Yep.
His voice work is incredible. I would want him in any animated movie because he can do a whole range of things, but he's definitely Josh Gad. But, it's like Jason Sudeikis is fine. He's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
What would some super awesome creative veteran voice actor have done with that role differently? I don't know. Maybe he made something really iconic with it. Instead, it's just Jason Sudeikis.
Well, one thing, I'm a big fan of Josh Gad. I have been for a long time. The thing that I'm a bit worried about is obviously post-Frozen, he's doing quite a lot of voice stuff, and he's doing like a sub Jack Black kind of shtick. And I'm just a little bit worried about
Another great voice actor, by the way. Jack Black.
Yeah, fantastic. But I'm just worried about if he's doing too much and we're going to get a bit sick of him a bit too early. Because he's got some big projects coming out as well, Beauty and the Beast as well, the Disney movie which comes out next year.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think he's doing like one of the teapots or something like that. Anyway, it's hard to say because Jack Black is such a great example of that. He burned bright, but for a short period of time.
Because he was in everything for a while. It's like we need a tubby white guy.
Yeah, maybe
with a funny voice.
Yeah, back off, Josh Gad. You know what's good for you.
You're stealing Black's shtick, man.
Yeah, man. Leave some work for the rest of us.
Cool.
There, how's that?
So out of 5, what do you?
Oh, I would say it's 3. I give it a 3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. They'll be happy with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Do you love Angry Birds? Are you crazy about Angry Birds? You will love this movie.
Great.
Your toes will curl.
So we're going to get into the big news of the week. We're going to come to some more releases later on. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Oh, that's easy. As we found out last night, Nick Winding Refn now wants to go as NWR. Or I mean, that's
Right.
what his brand is now
Right.
on screen.
Okay.
It just was. I just thought, what pretentious prickery is this?
Well, we just learnt to say his name correctly, and he's like, yeah, just like do an abbreviation.
But then you realize that I tend to go by JLD. It's an old
Yeah.
AP. It's an old Associated Press thing. Yes, JLD Light. JLDLITE at Twitter.
Awesome. And you can find me at Showbiz Simon. And of course, obviously, what you need to do today is be part of the show. Everybody wants to be part of the show. We're getting a lot of feedback on that, which is great. I put the number for that right at the top of the chat on YouTube. Alternatively, get a pen. Get a pen. Old school, write it down. The number now, write it down. I'm going to tell you. 424 253 0504. That's 424 253 0504. I'll give it out again in a minute. We're going to be taking calls about a third of the way through the show, and then the final third as well. We'll take some more calls. There is so much going on this week in movie news. Good stuff and bad stuff. Let's As Can is still going on, and it's hot news this morning. Sean Penn's latest film, The Last Face, screened there.
Which I did not achieve my radar at all.
I
had
didn't
no
know he
idea
had
this movie was
anything
cut.
there.
I didn't either. Yeah, until just this morning when we saw the reactions to it.
Which makes me wonder, did they kind of know that it wasn't going to get a good reception? And kind of go, well, let's just slip this in. Nobody will know or really pay a huge amount of attention to it. Because in all the preview lists, I didn't see this mentioned as if you can get a ticket at Cannes, this is one of the films you should really wait outside for hours to get a ticket for. So is it let's just put it out there and see how it goes, or we kind of know this sucks, let's not tell anyone it's there?
I think they always kind of know when it sucks.
Yeah.
I think they always know. You know, marketers watch movies too. They have the same reactions to them that we do. They just have to do a different job than we do. And although if they thought it was that bad, why would you take it to Cannes at all? Just bury it.
Well, here's my theory on that. You've been to film
want the bad
festivals.
press?
Well, no. If you're going to show a film that you think might not be very good, but might be worthy, you're going to take it to a crowd of people who are sometimes highfalutin and slightly biased towards the art of cinema. It's a case of, here's my polished turd. Look at how good, look at the message, look at how meaningful it is. So you might have a few people there, and especially if it's by a well-known and established director and a well-liked cast, you're going to go, oh, well, that's very good, well done. Polite ripple of applause, and, oh, yes, it got a standing ovation at Cannes. It might be a bag of shit. You just don't know. But that might have been the idea behind it.
And we're getting to the end of Cannes, so it's only hardcores left over.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of hardcores watching your movie.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just be like, another one.
And they've probably seen a good 8 days of good movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, what
Yeah.
the shit is this?
Yeah, these people barely have any synapses left after
Yeah.
eight days of Cannes, and we're asking them to just like maybe they'll just be like,
Yeah, maybe not.
That's okay.
Well,
I like
also-
that theory. We're going with that. That's what happened.
And the positioning is really interesting because I know a lot of journalists who've already left Cannes. So this is kind of in the end of the festival where they're like, well, a lot of the big guns might have gone home. And if it's just some smaller people who see it, then it might be all right because nobody will hear about it. But, everybody's hearing about it today.
They tried to straddle the line, and they missed.
So it's a humanitarian romance called The Last Face. It's a film that he made with Charlize Theron and Javier Bardem.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a what?
It's a humanitarian romance. It's a
romance, of course.
whom rom?
It's already got me.
Rom-com?
It has already got me. I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, it sounds captivating. It's been dubbed the worst of the fest. Apparently, people are quipping on Twitter that the picture is so awful that it destroyed Penn's relationship with Theron. They broke up around a year ago. Yeah, critics then, obviously we're in the audience, got to see it. Variety chief film critic, I'm getting the story off Variety this morning, Owen Gleiberman, faulted Penn for spending too much time on the love story between Theron and Bardem, saying that no matter how well-meaning a director might be, there's something inherently eye-rolling about being asked to care about the tragedy of African children through the POV of two lovelorn glamour pussies. My favourite, though, is from a British journalist, former PR but now journalist Benjamin Lee, who wrote for The Guardian. And this is so unbelievably stinging. I can't imagine Sean Penn, if he's read this, is very happy today. He described it as an extended Band-Aid video, shoddily assembled to be screened at galas filled with guilty elite sipping champagne while frowning at close-ups of tearful orphans.
Oh, my goodness.
That's pretty damning.
That is pretty bad. And especially when you're going to be basically, tearful orphan shaming here.
Yeah.
That's sensitive territory. It must be really bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's not somewhere that you really go.
Yeah.
That's dark. So, I
Great,
mean,
can't wait.
But he's done some great movies. I mean, as an actor and as a director. I mean, he directed, among others, Into the Wild, The Pledge, both good movies.
I can't believe that Fast Times didn't come up first. Simon, come on.
Well, yeah. He's also best Oscar winner for Mystic River and Milk. I mean, his performance in Milk is one of the best performances I've seen from an actor in probably the last 15 years.
Yeah, he was great in that movie. He's great in everything he's in, even like terrible movies he's in, like in Gangster Squad. He was great. He was terrible. When he's terrible,
The
he's
Gunman
great.
last year? Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
I actually quite enjoyed that. And I think, again, Javier Bardem was in that, actually.
Tough guys and guns.
I quite enjoyed that. But this, maybe he's used up all his director skills.
I don't know.
That happens, though, right?
I think he probably made a stinker. He'll be back. Think about it. I mean, all these like aging actors who are into directing now they all have a bomb once in a while, or at least a not very good movie.
Yeah.
I know American Sniper made $1 billion or whatever, but it was not a great movie.
No. Do you think if you're doing a project as a director or as a producer, and it's a very well-meaning project, and you want to get a very meaningful message across, which the message behind the movie is very well-meaning.
Yeah.
Can you be too close to a project so you don't realise that you're just fucking it up?
Probably, and that's probably what happened with Sean and Charlize, is that they just maybe they creatively broke down too and just couldn't deal with it anymore or something, and it shows. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I sure can't wait to see it though.
Well, talking about movies that you haven't seen and judging them, let's talk about...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
All right.
James Rolfe, an established critic here in the US, posted something this week about not reviewing a film, but he's already said he doesn't like it, and he's not going to go and see it, but already has an opinion on the film. Now, I've been guilty of doing this in the past with films, but for a reason, rather than just going, I don't like the trailer, so I think it's going to suck. Is not reviewing a film the new reviewing a film?
I mean, is that... No, I hope not. I think that's silly. I mean, I've not ever not reviewed a film on some sort of principle or something like that. I think this guy just had kind of figured out a really ingenious way to get some attention.
Yeah.
Which was to put out this kind of like, it's very calculated. If you go through it, it seems very scripted to me. And I think that he knew this is just a theory, but that he knew very shrewdly not to say anything about the cast, to just leave the cast completely out of it and only focus on the fact that it doesn't connect back to the original movies. Now, this is my other theory. This isn't a theory. This is just my great hope that they do make it connect back to all the to the old movie. That's the big surprise, and all these angry fanboys suddenly what the one pillar they might have to stand on falls out beneath them, and they're crushed under the weight of their own collapse. It would be hysterical. It'd be great.
When you write reviews and I write reviews, and I've written a couple for IGN recently, and people are going to disagree with you. That's just the way it is. But there are people, and we've had this a lot this year with things like Batman versus Superman, where there are people who are saying that they think a film is going to be brilliant, or your opinion of a film is wrong, and they actually haven't seen the film. So is that the same as what James is doing here?
You know, it's funny you say that because the Angry Birds review I did today, in a way I've never done a review before, which is I essentially broke it into 4 different parts. Like, okay, so what do you want from your Angry Birds experience? Are you super excited about it? Then here's a little bit of a review for you. And if you're just being dragged there by your kids, am I going to survive? Yes, here's a little bit for you.
Yeah.
And so on down. So it's because when I see a movie like that, I just go, why would I go home and trash this movie? Why would I go home and write? What good does that do anybody but a bunch of other cranky old white guys? It's just not helping. So it's a thing I think about. I think about that all the time when I'm writing. I'm like, I got to sort of understand that I may very well be the only person with this opinion.
Yeah.
Or I'll be in the minority. I didn't like The Nice Guys. I thought that movie was very clumsy and very on the nose jokes, and the slapstickiness of it just wasn't tonally right for me. But everybody loved it. It's 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's probably going to be a nice, mid-sized hit for those guys. Maybe they'll even get the sequel out of it that they want.
Yes, well, clearly that. We'll talk about that later, but yes, I mean, very much so. But it's funny because I'm quite excited about the Ghostbusters movie. I've said this before on the show. I know people that have read the complete script, and they've said the script is actually very good. They're really excited about it. And again, they were people that weren't particularly sure about it. The more I see of the film, I don't want to see too much because I don't want to spoil it, because I don't want all the good gags to be in there. But the more I see about it, the more interested and intrigued I am about it. And a lot of the arguments are, I mean, obviously we've heard the one about women, so I'm not going to go there again. But it's like, oh, you've ruined the first film. No, you haven't, because that first film is still there. It doesn't mean like, yeah, okay, so now we've got Ghostbusters 2016,
everybody's become so accustomed to continuity now. That's what they want. They want continuity.
And then when they get it with Zoolander 2, everyone's like, well, that was shit. It was just the same as the first film. So it's kind of we constantly do this as audiences.
I was bummed that Pee Wee Herman didn't have continuity. I wanted a little bit of that in his 2 movies, and it just didn't. It pretended like the other one didn't exist.
Yeah,
but it does still exist. I don't know. That blows my mind.
Can you go on Netflix and watch them? Holy shit!
Both of the Pee Wee Herman movies?
I know you can with the first one. I don't know if you can. Big Top Pee Wee was on there for a while.
There was there was a Netflix production. I believe it was there. It's their movie. It's probably there in perpetuity.
Yes, the new one is.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
On there. I still need to get around to that. Someone's asking, where's Jeff? Don't worry, Jeff is fine. He's just taken a week off this week.
The Darker Knight, Jeff Snyder.
Yes.
Is not here today. I'm standing in for him.
A little bit less shouty. But
it is.
I miss him though. I miss him. He'll be back.
I can do that too.
People are here. Okay, so look at the chat. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. How can you review a movie that you didn't see? Yeah, really good point. This is from Dylan. And IGN is actually really cool. You've got to see the movie if that's your job. Absolutely. That's coming in from Gregory Castillo. A film critic's job, this is from Linton Ritchie in the chat. A film critic's job is to inform the public so as to allow us to choose our film's experience well. Absolutely. The problem is when you watch a movie and... a lot of critics, you'll have found this as well in the industry, they go in there with kind of a prejudice. A lot of people go into especially things like horror and comedy. They'll go in and they'll think it's a lowest common denominator movie. So, lovely. If you're going to go home and get hard over Francois Truffaut, that's amazing. I'm very, very happy for you. But probably The Conjuring 2, I don't think that's really going to be your cup of tea. But you have to look at everything on its merits. You and I have had to sit through countless shit films over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Countless shit films. But
I've also walked out of a few.
Yeah. Oh, what have you walked out of?
Oh, gosh. What is the one? I couldn't possibly tell you the title, but it was a few years ago when it was at Toronto. It's sort of, movie hopping.
Yeah.
14 movies just to bail on one because it's just like, no.
2 hours is too long enough.
Yeah. That's not such a big deal.
Remember once I walked out of the Flintstones, and that was a press screening. Well, I say a press screening. It was for press. I was working in a theatre.
Was it that bad, or was it just kind of one of those things where you're like, I get it?
No, I was, even at the age of about 17, I was like, oh, fuck.
Wow.
My life is too short. I can't believe I'm wasting time to go and see that. Yeah, it's not very often. I mean, I have a kind of a thing where I like to watch movies, and then even if it's kind of shit, I'm like, maybe it'll get better. And if you suddenly you're watching it, and it's like the first, because it happens sometimes, first half of a film is not particularly good, and then actually the second half is like, oh, that was a good second and third act. I actually pulled it back. And I'm worried that I might miss that good second and third act. It often doesn't come.
Yeah,
I'm going to be quite honest.
Time dwindles pretty quickly on a very bad movie.
We're going to take some calls in a minute, so I'll give the number out again. It's 424-253-0504. It's 424-253-0504. Also, that number, if you didn't write it down, is at the top of the chat on the YouTube channel. So feel free to pop to the top of that and give us a call. We'll take a couple of calls in a minute. So I also want to talk before then. This week, Daniel Craig isn't Bond. This story
according
comes round
to the Daily Mail, but
Yeah.
all signs have pointed toward this, and I kind of believe the Daily Mail on this, and I can't get too much into why, but I don't think he's coming back, and I do think that they probably offered him a sum like that. I think the producer's fee that they were probably going to include was going to be in that number, obviously.
Yeah.
As opposed to points, which he already has. So he's apparently done, and he's done 4. That's how many Pierce did.
Yeah.
Moore did 7, and so did Sean Connery. So it's not a bad time to quit. And there's a lot of chatter already about the new guy.
Yeah.
It would be very anticlimactic now for him to say, "Okay, fine, I'll do one more." You know. So we'll see. I do like Tom Hiddleston a lot as an actor. I think he's great, and I know he's a cool guy and everything. But is that the right call there? I mean, they're all but calling this thing.
I think he'd do a great job. And I think he's that level of maturity and age where he'd be believable as James Bond. But he's not too old. I think they'd take it in a slightly more Hollywoody style of film, where they kind of made it have a feel of that, but still retaining that British feel about it. I think they might want to take it a bit more Hollywood, make it feel a bit more Bourne. Not too close, but a bit more Bourne. I think he'd be good for that. It felt for me, I would like to see Dan Stevens do it. I think Dan Stevens would be really good. If you saw him in The Guest, did you see The Guest?
I did.
Awesome in that. And he's also got that right level of sort of smouldering badassness, but cheeky sexiness that I think audiences will kind of appreciate.
Now he's using an American accent in The Guest, right?
He is, yeah.
But he's British.
Yeah,
okay.
he is. Yeah.
Well, then I'm out
was at
because I
university
want
with my wife,
at this point
so-
I want an American Bond. I want an American actor to play James Bond.
You do realise that there would be...
I'm making a line in the sand right here.
I'm okay with that.
Right there.
I'm absolutely fine with
You
that.
would not. You guys would lose your
personally,
minds
I'm-
if it
well,
was an American
the Daily
Bond. It
Mail would
never,
lose their minds.
Never happen. It would never happen.
It would be
But no,
classed as
go ahead. You can have
another
Batman
immigrant
and
coming
Superman
over.
and the Joker and...
Well, that's it. I mean, this is why I think if there's any now a time to have an American as Bond.
Spider-Man twice.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We just should do
There
it.
will never be an American Bond
You know
in
that
our
Ben Affleck's
lifetime
British
or
as well,
any
right?
other.
So we've
They
taken
will-
Batman.
The Broccoli's will never let that happen. Never.
Do you not think so?
There'll never be anything but... some...
Do you think it's more likely then to have someone who's not white as Bond than there is to have not English?
I would love Idris Elba would be great. At this point, I sort of feel like I've knocked the idea around in my head enough, and that where I can visualize it, and he'd be amazing. I think the better idea is to find a super awesome young Bollywood actor and make Bond be Indian.
Yeah.
That would be a huge audience that you'd suddenly be really reining into this franchise. And
Massive
How
audience.
cool would Indian Bond be? Just because of the
They wouldn't call him that, obviously.
No. And that's just me using shorthand
I'm
right now.
Indian Bond? No, I think there is time. I think Idris Elba would do an amazing job.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'd love it.
I'm just wondering if he's a little bit too old now. I think there are a lot of
That is so ageist, Simon.
Well, I just think he's graying, and I don't think we're ready to have a Bond going
That's
in
what
that's
we
grey.
have. We have computers that do that now.
And hair dye. I mean, hair is not really my
That's
specialist
true.
area,
Yeah, no.
evidently. But no, I would love to see David Oluwayu, because I think he's so British. And if we are going to have someone that is not white as James Bond, which I don't give a fuck whether he's white or not, I just don't care. But I think if we're looking for someone who's very, very British, would be able to carry off that kind of role with gravitas, I think David would be amazing. I think it'd probably go to Tom or Idris. But, I just think there are some other options out there that are worth looking at.
It'll be Hiddleston. It's always Hiddleston. By that I mean the guy who's, probably more the front running choice. I mean, we never get a surprise in these kind of things. Not when there's this much smoke.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, so we're going to take some calls in just a second. So if you do want to call 424-253-0504. Something else that was bandied around talking about casting is Cable in Deadpool 2. A lot of names are starting to come into the fray with that. Names that have already been put forward: Ron Perlman, John Hamm, Stephen Lang, and this week Dolph Lundgren did a piece with Nerdist, and it was quite funny.
Old. Yeah. How old is Dolph? He probably looks great. I'm sure he's in top shape and can probably do all the stunts himself at age 70?
Yeah, he's probably for a man that's more gnarly than an angry scrotum. I would love to see him doing that kind of thing.
Do you know he's also like some kind of brilliant scientist or something?
Astrophysicist. Yeah, no, he's a serious. I interviewed him a couple of times, and he's a seriously intelligent and a genuinely lovely guy.
Yeah.
But he's stuck in this kind of straight to DVD, straight to home entertainment kind of world at the moment. And I would love to see him pulled out of that. And I don't know if he's right for it. He was kind of like, oh, I hear everyone's talking about Cable in Deadpool 2. Yeah, I might be up for that.
Listen, look at what Kurt Russell is doing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can bounce back in your 60s and your 70s. And he's going to have an amazing role in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, by the way.
Yeah. He's having such a renaissance right now. Such a renaissance.
Yeah. He should. He's amazing.
Well, is there anybody out there that you would like to see as Cable? Because I've got an idea that might come out of nowhere.
I want to hear yours first.
Okay. Dylan Flickinger has said Mel Gibson as Cable.
Oh wow,
that could work.
Maybe Downey could grease the skids for that. That would be great.
Yeah.
Gosh, that would be great.
That'd be awesome, actually. My suggestion: a guy that I actually spoke to this week, Henry Rollins.
Oh yeah.
Because he is. That guy could like make a coffee and be intense and charismatic. And
he looks like Cable too.
And there's a movie coming out on Home Entertainment, a really tiny budget movie called The Last Heist. And he plays a serial killer in it who gets stuck in the middle of a heist in a safe deposit place. And he's just amazing. And just sitting down and talking to him for 15, 20 minutes this week was just like, holy shit, Hollywood does not use you enough.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
It really doesn't.
You gotta have that like very square jaw, lantern jaw, right, to play Cable. Yeah.
And it's just, I think he would be great, and he hasn't had. I mean, I loved him in things like The Chase. Do you remember The Chase?
No, I don't.
It was a '90s movie with Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson, and it was awesome, and it's hugely underrated. And I just thought he was great in Sons of Anarchy. Anything he's done, he's always had a really enigmatic presence, and he would make an amazing villain. I think he'd be great for Cable.
That'd be fun.
So, who's your suggestion?
Oh, you're just putting me on the spot. I just got to think of a big guy now, huh? You know what I was thinking? Lantern Jaw. Just give Josh Hutcherson a bunch of HGH in about 3 years.
I really like Josh, but
that's your young Cable right there.
There you go. Before and after pictures.
Yeah, when they decide to go back into the prequels.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he'd be good? I think he needs something really big post Hunger Games.
Oh, I think he's much too small for that. I'm making a joke, but I think he's probably the real deal. He's starting to produce some stuff now on the digital front. He's got projects that are actually taking root in places digitally. So he's kind of, I think, figuring out his future right now. Maybe he might be a director at some point.
Yeah, cool. I like the name John Hamm. I think John Hamm would be great, or Ron Perlman. There's a lot of good names coming out for that. Do we have some calls?
Yes, we do. You are online with Meet the Movie Press. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, Simon.
Hey, how are you?
Remember me?
Yes, how are you?
Remember me, Jonathan?
Yeah, how are you?
I was the one who sent the Doctor Strange question.
Yes. What can I do for you?
I'm going to ask you some couple of things, but first, and the main one, why do people on social media such jerks to the Ghostbusters cast? Like, really? It's a reboot. Like, for those of people on social media, grow up.
I think the biggest problem is, and I don't think it's necessarily because, I don't know how you feel about this, Josh, but I think it's partly because it's women, but I think when you're so close and a thing is so well loved, it's just difficult to see it a different way, something you're so familiar with. And everyone does...
I'm rooting for the new Ghostbusters movie. I'm rooting for it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you just are so passionate about something, and when you feel it's something that's so perfect, people think they're just too close to it and they can't see it another way. I mean, I'm really open to it. I hope it will work. I really do. And out of the two, personally...
Yeah, I hope this succeeds and hope we get more Ghostbusters movies.
Well, I would much rather see... And I love the original Ghostbusters movie. They're a massive part of my childhood. But I would rather see people who are different to the original cast doing it than the original cast running around being old. Because having seen that where we see Arnold Schwarzenegger come back and do several things, Sly Stallone come back and do things, I love seeing it, but it makes me feel so fucking sad because they're so old.
Well, it'd be nice to Sly now. Sly's still bouncing around pretty good these days.
But it's just, I mean, I loved him in Creed, and I've loved him in many things that he's done. But you just look at him and like, dude, you're really old. And I don't know if the original Ghostbusters, if they had come back, the remaining members would actually... I don't think it... that for me would have been harder to swallow, to not have them doing what they were doing in those glory days and just doing an older version. And also as marketing, that would be a lot harder to sell. You know,
I saw on Twitter some little kids dressed up with the new Ghostbusters toys. They look great. Honestly, I think there's an audience around there.
There's a huge audience, and I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of the audience it's going for, it's certainly...
And this is for the brand new generation of folks.
Well, it's like, it's like Star Wars. You know, I genuinely love seeing kids playing with Star Wars toys and wearing Star Wars clothes, because I think it's something that is passed from generation to generation, and there aren't that many film franchises that manage to do it.
Yeah, I think, look, how much fan service do we need? Star Wars was the perfect example of an incredible overload of fan service, which is what people wanted, and they'd been waiting for it forever, and they were starving for it, and it was great.
Yeah.
It's very well done, but very fan service. Ghostbusters, moderate fan service. That's just not... There's a huge audience that loves the original Ghostbusters, and there's a big chunk of them that are not going to like this idea. Then we can get into the reasons why, but I think we all know what it is. So you go, no, we're going to grow this audience along with the people we're bringing along. It'll be far bigger, and eventually we're going to get these guys. It's just like...
Yeah, I'm rooting for this movie to succeed.
Yeah, it's going to be... It'll be... Listen,
I hope it's good.
We saw a bunch of it at CinemaCon. We saw the first, 6 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you sort of have a moment to absorb into that world a little bit, suddenly it's different. Also, look at who we're talking about here. It's Paul Feig and Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy and... Why, and they're throwing in Kate McKinnon. Why are you not trusting these people?
Well,
I'm
just they are. This movie could just be bananas great. It could be great.
So much. They're funny movies.
Spy didn't look good in the trailers either, and it's a great movie.
And also, if you remember,
pretty much all Paul Feig movies in the trailers look good. And it's kind of like don't judge by its cover.
Yeah, maybe Paul Feig movies just don't lend themselves to trailers.
Yeah,
is what we need to figure out real quick here.
Well, one thing that I remember from seeing Spy, and again, I mean, I'm a big fan of Paul's work. I think he's great, and he always pulls it out of the bag, certainly as far as I'm concerned. If you remember with Spy, there were a lot of jokes in the trailer that were really, really good, but a lot of the jokes that you saw in the trailer weren't the ones that you saw in the movie.
Do you know the Angry Birds trailer I watched this morning, because I was embedding it in my post? About 40% of the footage is not in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that's completely outtakes.
I think we're kind of seeing a slight shift with that kind of marketing where, this stuff used to be saved as effectively extra content or outtakes on DVDs and stuff like that. But now a lot of people aren't buying DVDs.
Or they're building trailers around. They need to connect something in the trailer, so they shoot a scene for it.
So I'm genuinely excited, and like I said, I have friends who've read the script, and they're like, people are going to be really surprised by Ghostbusters. So I'm hoping that people are going to be like you and actually give that film a chance. But I certainly know around me, you'll see in here, sort of in the US, the back of bus seats and in bus shelters and stuff like that. In my neighborhood, every time they put one of those back of a bus stop seat, Ghostbusters, who you're going to call things, somebody steals them. So Sony must be spending a shitload of money on these placards, because every time they put one up, somebody fucking nicks it.
That's amazing.
So clearly people are excited about it. They want to own, unless I don't know, maybe it's Disney going around taking them all down. I'm just messing with you. People want this. People want to be part of it. And like you say, people are buying the merchandise. They're already putting, financial investment and interest into this movie. But yeah,
Hey, let me ask you this.
Sure.
How do you taste the Ecto Cooler? What does it taste like?
I haven't.
No, I've never tasted Ecto Cooler.
I
No.
will say, this is Mark in the booth.
Yep.
It tastes like magic.
Oh, wow.
Pretty accurately.
Does it
Nice.
taste like the afterlife?
Presumably. It's like a citrusy type of flavor.
It is green, right?
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
one last two things before
Sure.
I go. Which sequel do you want to see more, Beverly Hills Cop 4 or Top Gun 2?
I'm ready for Top Gun 2.
You see, I'll
take it.
It depends on what. I don't know. I mean, I love Top Gun, and obviously it's 30th anniversary this week of it being released in theaters. I would be more excited just about Top Gun 2. I'd like to see what they could do with that. A lot of the ideas that I've heard about it so far have been very good and excited me. Beverly Hills Cop 4, I still enjoyed Beverly Hills Cop 3, but it was a shit film.
Would Eddie Murphy have to be? I mean, he's the retired cop.
You'd
Is he
have,
the-
yeah. I think you'd have to bring him back as Axel
the-
Foley, and he'd have to be the main because there's
He's the mayor, Mayor Foley.
Mayor Foley. But yeah, I would be open to Beverly Hills Cop 4, but after Lethal Weapon 4, I'm okay with them kind of leaving that one. You know, we got two great movies and a third movie out of Beverly Hills Cop. So, yeah, I think Top Gun 2, which I think will get made, because if Tom Cruise wants something made, it just
And also,
fucking gets made.
they hired the same writer who wrote the Jungle Book, like the newest one.
Yeah.
And one last thing,
Sure.
what do you think a Pokemon movie directed by Edgar Wright?
No.
No. No. I love Edgar Wright, and he's brilliant, but I'm going to pass on that one.
Yeah.
All right, the reason I brought this up because he has the same visual style what he did with Scott Pilgrim. So I thought Pokemon might have similar ways.
I agree with you, but unfortunately not enough people cared about Scott Pilgrim, a film that I really enjoyed and loved. Too overlong, but, you know, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think. I might be wrong. I mean, you know, they're making 3 Tetris movies, for Christ's sake.
They're not.
Oh, they're not making.
So this is another topic of mine.
Okay.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Good to have to talk to you again, Simon.
Awesome.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you again soon.
The Tetris movie. I wrote about this week.
Yeah.
So at this point, listen, there's maybe going to be a Tetris movie, and if there is a Tetris movie, it's going to be a moderate, you know, 80 million budget, and it'll be a weird, like, sort of just distribution only deal with somebody for U.S. and somebody else for different territories. It's not going to be like a big studio tentpole movie in the way that we're used to them anyway these days. That said, it's just getting started. Things are just coming together, and it's a very weird pastiche of Chinese money and a U.S. producer who made Mortal Kombat years and years ago, and the brand, which is coming from a software company. That's about as far as they've gotten. That it's not attached to a studio. There's no director on it. They have a writer on it, but he's like an in-house writer for other projects that they've done. So I think he's just going to do a treatment. It's very far away from happening, but everybody writes it as the Tetris movie is here, everyone.
But there seems
Get your
to be...
tickets.
No! Sounds like a load of blocks to me. But Nintendo came out this week and were like, we're looking at creating movies out of our characters. And I'm like, I'd be open to it.
They're all saying this
as
because
shit as it is, I do enjoy the Mario Brothers movie. Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo.
Wow.
I'm going to be speaking to John in a couple of weeks and going to ask him about that.
Okay.
Because it's shit, but I do like it.
yeah, you might want to get that checked.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was high on crack when I saw. I wasn't high on crack. I've never done crack.
So, yeah, they're all waiting to see how the Angry Birds does. And that's why we're getting these video game announcements, because they see this wave of, like, pretty big success coming for the Angry Birds. And now's the time to start trolling the water for interest in their brands to be developed as movies.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
We'll see how that goes.
They're just being shrewd because that's how you make money.
Something I touched on at the top of the show, the Rock launching the Ludlum Universe.
I'm telling you, man, what is the rock? How many rocks are there?
I opened my cupboard the other day. The Rock was in there.
Is that right?
He's literally everywhere.
I'm not even surprised.
He was my Uber driver the other day. I got in. I was like, "Fuck! Is there anything you're not doing?" He went, "Can you smell what I'm cooking?" I was like, "No."
I don't understand how it's possible for him to be doing all these jobs when he's also captain of the International Space Station. It just doesn't make any sense.
And he's running for
How do they
president.
shuttle him back and forth like that?
It's just he's doing so
It's
much.
absurd.
I love
The Rock.
The
We
Rock.
love you. Everyone loves you.
Yeah.
But for crying out loud, leave some breadcrumbs for the rest of them.
Yeah.
The dude is like first of all, not all these things are going to happen. Again,
No.
I hate to be the cynic all the time, but like, there's so much vaporware out there in Hollywood that it's crazy. And most of it has probably got something to do with The Rock. I mean, that guy can't do all of this stuff. He cannot.
I think that every single time we come and do the show on a Friday, there's a new project that The Rock has been working on. I'm just wondering if he's actually unemployed and he's just sitting at home and going, I've got a movie. No, he's actually,
No, that
"I've
guy
got so
never
many
stops
movies." He's got
working.
too many movies now. It's not looking true.
I was riding around back behind the studio that's over in Playa Vista on the Howard Hughes Field. I can't remember the name of it. It's Raleigh, I think. It's one of the big like outdoor studios that's sort of in the middle of nowhere that nobody bothers.
Yeah.
And I ride back there because I used to live over there. And one day I'm sure enough, it's like twilight, and I'm riding around back there, and there's a big rig with a green screen, and there's a dude in a vest like jumping off to the top of the rig onto the bottom of the rig, and it's The Rock. And he's shooting footage for like a video game promo or something like that.
I feel sorry for his family. Did they ever see this man?
I don't think. Does he have a family? I
think he does.
If he does,
He has
then
a girlfriend and a daughter.
He has a
Thank you.
girlfriend and a daughter. I thought he did, yeah.
well, that's maybe they just go with him everywhere he goes.
Maybe they do. God, that's amazing, isn't it? Get to go everywhere. In the chat, Tetris starring Tom Cruise. Do you know what? I'd fucking watch that. Do we have any more callers?
Yes, we do.
Cool.
1 second.
Yeah, I mean the whole Ludlum thing is obviously from the same author of the Bourne books.
I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, although I don't believe any conspiracy theories, but I believe this one. There are certain actors who will take a fee to get on board with the project with no expectation whatsoever of actually doing it down the line.
I mean, just look at how much money the Bourne movies in general have made.
Yeah.
We do have a caller.
Okay.
You're on with Meet the Movie Press. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Dylan Flickinger from Ohio. How are you guys
Hey,
today?
Dylan, how are you? You're in the chat, right?
Yes, I
Awesome.
was.
Good to hear from you. What would you like to
I'm
talk
good.
about?
I was wondering about the MIB 23 movie and what your thoughts were on that.
Well,
That one's apparently really going down.
it is going down, and I'm actually sitting down with James Bobbin on Sunday to talk about obviously his new movie for Disney, Alice Through the Looking Glass, and I'm going to be asking him about that. I think he's already said stuff about it so far. I'm open to it. I mean, I loved the two Jump Street movies. I thought they were done really, really well. The second one for me wasn't quite as good as the first one. It felt like it was a joke that was getting. There were a lot of jokes that felt quite samey in the second one, but that kind of felt the same way for me with Men in Black 3. I kind of felt that I'd been there and done that. So I think the only way to keep those two things feeling even remotely fresh is to put them together or to not do them at all. And I think there's enough money behind both of them to warrant for the studio to have been mental not to have done it, to be quite frank with you.
I think it's a funny idea. I mean, think about when's the last time you took two completely unrelated movie franchises that are just happen to be in the same studio and go, let's push these two things together and see what happens. It's a weird idea, but it's only going to work if you get the tone right, if the tones work together. And in this case, I think they do. It's really hard to do action comedy, and both of those are pretty successful action comedies. You know, they
With
both
casts that just really pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, they both take place in the real world in real time.
Yeah.
There's nothing about the two things that seem to bump into each other. I think they might mesh pretty well. And is it going to work? I have no idea. You're writing a script with characters from two different movies and trying to work them in and make them interact. It's a cool experiment. I don't know that I've ever heard of this ever having happened before. So as goofy as it sounds, it's a little bit like, putting your peanut butter with your breakfast cereal and just like seeing how that works out. I'm interested to see what they come up with.
And James is a director who has previously worked with ideas where two worlds collide. So you've got Muppets and humans in the two Muppets movies.
Oh, yeah.
So he is someone that's used to blending things that
Interesting.
don't necessarily go together, or certainly can be quite difficult to make as two believable entities coming together, puppets and humans. So he has shown that he can do that. What do you think?
What do you think, Dylan?
I'm thinking, like, if he can create, like, I've seen Muppets Most Wanted, and like the Muppets interacting with the humans. I thought that was overly okay. I wasn't a big fan of the second movie. I thought the first one was better than the second one. Now, my other questions I got on my mind right now. The other question is, what would you feel about Jordan Peele playing the Men in Black Will Smith character?
Sure, Jordan's awesome.
I would be very open to that. I mean,
he's awesome.
I think Keanu deserved more love at the box office. It did okay, but it could have had more love. Is Will Smith? He hasn't said he's involved in this project yet, has he?
No, but I think he almost has to be. Or it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
I think they should involve them. They would be a really they can do comedy in a slightly different way to how Will Smith would do it, and I think a lot of it depends on Suicide Squad, because Will Smith's popularity at the box office has been a little bit unpredictable over the last few years. So I don't know whether he still has, even though I love him as an actor and I love a lot of the movies that he's done, I don't know whether the younger generation might still really be as attached to him as a box office entity as perhaps they were 5, maybe 10 years ago.
Why isn't he doing ID4?
I don't know.
Why is he not doing that?
I would have loved to have seen him in that. He was my favourite character in the movie.
And
so many other people have come back, but I mean that's another film I'm quite curious to see.
Oh, it looks
kind
awesome.
Of funny because go ahead.
It looks awesome. We saw a bunch of that at CinemaCon too, and I think most of that footage is online now. It's just the same destruction, but on such a bigger scale that it's like, whoa, okay, that looks cool and new. I think it's gonna be fun.
So yeah, I mean, I think that would be good. I mean, I think there are lots of people that they could cast at the moment. I mean, dare I say, have a female member of the MIB crew, to mix it up. I think would possibly work, or maybe have a female boss or something. There are so many things that I think, because it is going to be so fundamentally different, there's so many things that they could do with it. I think it is, apart from swapping out Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, I think they need to remain part of it. But if they're going to start playing around with galaxies, it does give them a bit more freedom. But I think your suggestion is a really good one. So
I think it's kind of funny because I got to see the Concussion movie recently, and I was thinking about, Will Smith is so good in this movie, and it's like it's kind of sad that people don't go see his movies that very often anymore.
I'm hoping that Suicide Squad will change that for him. I'm
hoping too.
I think some of it's to do with the quality of movies that he's been doing over the last couple of years. They haven't all been. I mean, Focus was not anywhere near.
He's picked some weird ones.
Yeah.
People had Hollywood had a big boner for that movie before it got made, and they kept cycling through people. Ben Affleck, I think, was in the lead at one point, and Kristen Stewart was attached at one point.
But it's a really good case of some movies that happen in Hollywood where it's more about it's sold on the stars rather than the quality of the film. Yeah. And this happened with a film. Oh God, I can't remember what it was. It had a really stellar cast, and it was like a heist thriller. They played it on about 4 main people. I think I don't think it was a Ridley Scott movie, something like that. And it was sold on the strength of the cast, and the film itself was actually just really, really poor. The script was bad. The pace was off, and it was sold on who was in it rather than it actually being a good movie. And it just quite simply wasn't enough. But I like all your suggestions. That's really cool. Thank you very much for calling. Good to talk to you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about some more news in a second because we're kind of running out of time. But let's talk about the new releases this week. You've seen Angry Birds. We've already discussed that. I haven't seen that one. Nice Guys is something that we've both seen. I gave it 9 out of 10 on IGN. You weren't a fan.
No, I mean, I don't think the movie is bad necessarily. It's just it's so happy with its cleverness at certain points, and it has a cheekiness that is almost fourth wall breaking. And by that I mean moments in the interactions with the characters and in the script where, somebody says a one-liner rather than grabbing for the gun right away. There's just a little bit too much meta there for me to feel like I'm along for this is a believable story. And that's a subtle thing. And I sat there watching that movie going, everybody's gonna love this movie. This movie is gonna be just a huge critical hit and probably a nice nice financial hit as well. Won't be a huge movie, but it'll do some business. And I didn't like it that much. And again, it's one of those weird positions you find yourself just in the minority about something that everybody loves.
It was a film that I kind of had not been... I knew it was there. I wasn't massively aware of it as a film. I got assigned to cover it, and I was like, okay, I should look more into this. I like Ryan Gosling. I like Russell Crowe. I really like the work of Shane Black, and Joel Silver is just a genius. So I was kind of like, okay, fine, well, let's go into it with quite an open mind. Obviously knew the heritage of both of them, so, Lethal Weapon, Last Boy Scout, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, that kind of thing. I knew about Shane's love for Los Angeles, and I was like, with that cast, and it should be a good script. Watch the trailer. Actually, this is going to be good fun. I think the connection, and I spoke to them about this, to Lethal Weapon and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, etc. You can tell that this is a companion piece to this. That's basically how they were pitching it, and it does work like that. It's set in the 70s. It worked for me in ways that I thought perhaps would actually work against it, which I was quite surprised about. And then other areas, like there's a scene with a bee in the car.
Yeah.
Which
A bee in the car. It's good.
Yeah. That came out of nowhere. And it didn't sit out for me. Yeah, I was like, that was a big gamble for me. And for me, it just took me out of it for a couple of minutes. And I was like, I don't know, I get there's a theme of bees in the movie, but that was just really, really weird. And that didn't work for me.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, it's a little bit of a surreal shot when someone is drifting off. It was a little bit Fear and Loathing Las Vegas-like, I guess, in some regard.
Which didn't sit with anything else in the film.
No, it is one of those out of the blue shifts. But the film, I think, allowed itself a lot of that. To me, there were a lot of like weird, like, oh, okay, now it's going to be serious for a second. Oh, now it's going to go back to being slapstick, and now it's hyper violent, and now it's a little too clumsy of a ride for me. And I thought Gosling was great. I think it's a great role for him. I thought it was interesting that they did a sequel setup scene at the end.
Yeah,
and
I was kind of psyched about that. I would like to see more from this.
That did kind of feel... It felt very 90s, didn't it? It felt very 90s.
It did. It did feel sort of very much of that era, which is something I kind of miss. And I think for those of us who are slightly older, I think a younger audience would enjoy it as well. I sort of, the teenage, early 20s. But I think those who were sort of 30 plus, it felt kind of like a hug. It took us back to those movies that we used to get out of the VHS store and, that kind of thing. I really liked it. It was slightly flabby in places. I loved the script. I loved the action sequences. It needed more Matt Bomer for me. Because
he came in real late.
He was fucking delicious.
Yeah, he should have been
the bad
introduced.
Guy.
Yeah, somewhere
absolutely
in the second
brilliant.
act. Yeah, instead he shows up real late, and he's
awesome.
He's scary.
Yeah,
Matt Bomer is scary as hell.
It's up there with one of my favorite sort of hitman characters in film. He was just brilliant. I mean, there's a scene where he really sort of goes apeshit, and I'm just like, that was just so awesome. It reminded me of the early Lethal Weapon movies. But
Shane Black is full of so many great ideas.
Yeah.
He has so many great ideas.
Perhaps
and
too many.
Misdirections and stuff like that. I think the guy's awesome, but his movies just clatter on the tracks too much for me, and this is the perfect example of that. There are just things in it that I'm just like, oh God, really? Like for the fourth time, the answer to this dilemma that we're in is something falls out of the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, I can name the 4 times. I won't, but it happens a lot. Stuff falls out of the sky, like, poof, oh, here we go. Now the story's moving again. It's a little, it's just, I wanted it to be great. I want this movie to be great, and it's so close, but it's just not.
You see, for me, I think it's probably the other side of that. I was expecting it to be good, and it exceeded my expectations, which I think perhaps means maybe I've overflavored it a bit much. I don't know, but I was going in there with a very open mind, expecting something good.
Everybody loved it. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's fine. I think it's going to do really well. I would totally assume that a sequel is already in the works and will probably be announced within the next couple of months.
We'll see what the box office is.
What do you kind of predict with box office? I know.
You know what? You caught me. You kind of caught me, and I didn't look at the tracking, and I usually jump on that on Thursdays, and I haven't looked at it yet since today, so I don't know. But if I had to guess, I'd say that's probably a 25.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say 25 to 35.
and
I think
that's
would be
okay.
fair.
I mean, that's the movie probably cost about that, and maybe a little bit more, so they'll be okay.
yeah. I mean,
If it does better than that, then they'll do the thing where they announce the sequel right away.
Well, this weekend it's up against obviously that, Angry Birds, Captain America still doing exceptionally well at the box office, Jungle Book still people in, and Neighbours 2.
Yeah.
Have you seen Neighbours 2?
Yeah, I saw Neighbours 2.
Yeah, I caught that early this week.
I was a big fan of Neighbours, and I like almost everything that Seth Rogen does. I think he's, I think 30 years from now we're going to look back and be like, this guy was our Steve Martin.
Yeah.
And we just didn't realize it at the time. He again, this sequel feels a little quick on the turnaround. I feel like I just got done digesting Neighbours, and now here we are again. I liked it. It's good. It's a good franchise. I like the first one better. I just do. I think it was a little more raunchy and a little more jaw dropping and just like kind of a surprise. And kind of here we are back at the same house. There's just different people in it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, I don't know.
I mean, I laughed a lot, and I laughed hard, and I laughed often.
So you were the guy in the screening.
Yes.
There was
Yeah.
a guy in my screening that was howling like a howler monkey. It was like,
Was it at the ArcLight on Tuesday?
Yes.
That probably was me, actually. I don't think I was laughing that
I thought
hard.
you were a laugh plant. I thought the laugh plants were just really on fire that night.
Yeah, no,
it was crazy.
There are a couple of things that really made me laugh hard.
Me too.
Perhaps I
Me
laughed.
too.
I laughed a little bit too hard.
I
at
really
the Bill
like.
Cosby
Listen, I
joke.
really liked it. If you like Neighbours, you should see Neighbours too.
Yeah,
because
it's good.
a sequel and it's good.
The material for me, I know a lot of people love it, but it wasn't quite as strong. I don't think Zac Efron's character was as well drawn as his one in the original
He's
one.
so good, man.
He's awesome.
When
He
is somebody
needs
going to
more
figure
love.
this out and put somebody will put him in a big movie at some point?
He needs to.
and
he
it
needs
will
to do
it will
that.
pay off. He's got to find the right one.
Yeah.
though.
But
Why is he not a
just-
superhero at this point?
It's surely a matter of time, right?
Yeah, he
You
would've
see,
been
I
great.
would have think he would have been a really good casting for the Flash.
Yeah,
Because
he looks-
I think
yeah,
he looks
fast.
great. Facially, he looks great for it. And physically now, I think he's kind of about the right kind of presence.
Yeah,
and
he
he
looks
hasn't
fast.
done that.
Interesting.
Baywatch will be his first action movie.
Yeah, that, again, action comedy. That's such a tough thing to do. It didn't look good to me when I
Yeah.
saw the footage at CinemaCon. No.
Well, maybe he could take on some of the projects that The Rock just hasn't got time to do. You know, I don't like grocery shopping or... But no, I mean, I've got a lot of time for Zac Efron. I think he's great. I wasn't a massive fan of Neighbours 2, but it's certainly far from being a bad film. If someone suggests that you go and see that at the theatre this weekend, absolutely go, and you'll have a really good
it's
time.
great.
It's probably one of the strongest box office weekends with a number of options to actually go and see that we've had for quite a while.
It's a weird little triad, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right now, what's coming out that's new? Because you've got two comedies and basically three comedies.
Yeah.
And they're all for different sectors, but they are pretty close. It'll be close. I bet you Cap wins.
Yeah, I think Cap's going to come out on top because the others are going to be spread quite thinly with the audience. But to be honest with you, it's been a long time since you've had a weekend at the box office where there's not just a load of shit and the odd good movie. It's a solid weekend this weekend.
Well, summer is starting to happen now.
Yeah.
And we're really getting into it.
Let's run through a few things because we've only got a couple of minutes left on the show. Insidious 4 was confirmed this week with directors, producers, etc., etc. Insidious 4, the 15th, domestically in the US, 15th most successful horror franchise. I found that as a series getting not as good as it's got along. I love the first one, scared the shit out of me.
Insidious 3 was the first one that I saw.
Okay.
I think it's the only one that I've seen.
As a standalone film, that's actually not bad.
Yeah, I was told that it was kind of okay to see it just by itself. I guess it's okay. I mean, I like the actress. What's her name? The older woman.
Yeah. She's back. She's the main returning character.
She's sort of the glue that holds these weird, like, disparate movies together, right? Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. I don't get ghosty, scary movies.
I just see the poster when it comes out next year. Josh Dickey.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Kevin Smith this week, he revealed that he's working on a Buckaroo Banzai.
No, he's not. I'm in denial that exists.
Okay.
Next.
I love that film. I'd be quite interested to see that. So Vin Diesel this week, what Vin Diesel wants, Vin Diesel gets. He wants Justin Lin to come back and direct the final Fast and Furious film, which is going to be a long way off.
The final one.
Because they've got, it depends on what you mean by final, because there's 3 more in this part.
Didn't Donna Langley say at one point that they were looking at 12 or something like that. Didn't she had a number in mind?
Yeah. So whether he means the final one of this 3 run, I don't know, and then not the final one, because we all might be dead by the time the final one comes out in that franchise.
This is such a big... Listen,
and there are spin-offs to do as well.
Well, I was just going to say that this is phony.
There's the Han Solo Fast and Furious movie.
This is phony baloney because there's never going to be a final one. They will make those movies forever.
Yeah.
They will make them... We will be dead and gone.
Yeah. Talking of sequels, Sherlock 3 starts filming, this was announced recently, starts filming in the fall, and Shane Black was saying that, and Joel Silver was saying during their press tour for the Nice Guys, that there could be more sequels to that.
Oh, sure, why not?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Do you think Downey Jr. would devote more time to that than Iron Man? I mean, Marvel have said that Iron Man might get a little bit of rest, obviously, after Infinity.
No, yeah, Robert is interested, I think, when he's done with Iron Man and helping his friends. That sure seems to be what he will be doing to me, which is doing something with Mel, or something with Shane, or even something with maybe Favreau.
Yeah.
Who doesn't need anybody's help because he's clearly like a crazy kid movie genius.
Have you seen his movie, Chef? Favreau.
I have not, and that's that's
should
lame of me to have not seen it.
You should watch it. It's on Netflix. You should check it out. Going back to Netflix, actually, in Insidious 4, the guy who's going to be directing Insidious 4 did a film about, I think it was called Saving Deborah Logan, or The Rescue of Deborah Logan. It's kind of like an exorcism movie about an old lady that appears to have dementia, but is in factually, it's not dementia, it's something completely different. Scary as hell. Watch it.
Okay.
It's seriously, if you want to get an idea about what's going to be happening with that, that's a really good taster for
that. It does sound interesting. I like elevated horror ideas.
It's done really nicely. Not a huge budget.
Like Human Centipede. That's elevated horror.
Elevated. That's that's a series that takes some licking. Okay, so is there... I know, I'm sorry I went there. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that really hit you this week that was particularly exciting? I mean, I love the fact that Neon Demon got such a great response at Cannes. Everybody loved that, and I was great for NWR. NWR, yo.
He's gonna have his fans, and probably for good reason. And it's just, I just don't get him. I didn't like Drive. I didn't see Only God Forgives. I saw Drive twice. I've met Nick Refn. I've sat with him. He's a lovely human. He seems like an auteur and all that stuff. And his movies, to me, are just so far over my head as to why this is considered an entertainment. And that's okay.
See, I'm a fan of pretty much everything that he's done. I even liked Only God Forgives. I didn't love it.
You're a rare bird.
I'm rarer than hen's teeth on a fucking unicorn. That is not a film that people like, but I actually quite enjoy that. I love Drive. Really excited to see this. I'm going to get to a screening in LACMA in a couple of weeks.
They're going to screen it LACMA. Okay.
Yeah, there's a special event.
Thank you for telling me. No, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, psyched. So what are you going to be watching this week?
Well, let's see. It's funny. I'm kind of caught up right now, which is great. I've seen all the movies coming out this weekend, and Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Yes.
Which is coming out next weekend.
Seeing that tomorrow. When are you going to catch it?
I've already seen it. It's... Whew.
Yeah? No?
am telling you, they did something with something happened to the Mad Hatter, and it is not okay.
Okay. Great.
It's not okay.
Okay. Wow. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing that. I didn't like the first film, so won't say I'm particularly looking forward to this one.
I sort of understand why people liked the first movie, having seen it recently, and do not see a promising return of that sentiment happening for part 2.
Well, it's not as if Disney are short of profitable franchises. So if there's one that doesn't particularly work, I think they'll be okay this year. I'm not going to cry tears for the mouse.
They have already put away enough acorns this year that they could shut down operations until we come back to 2017.
Take a break, like The Rock. Are you going to something at Paramount tonight?
I am not.
Okay.
I'm not that popular over there.
This is pretty cool. I am going to get to Paramount tonight. There is a special event for Star Trek fans.
Oh, okay, I know about this.
Yeah, and they're going to be showing some footage.
Oh, come on, really? Oh, man, don't ruin my Friday night.
And the director and the cast are going to be there. They're not doing interviews. It's very much a case of going there to chat to fans, and we're going to see some footage. There is a rumour that tonight we might get to see the full movie.
Oh, come on.
I don't know if that's true. Even my contacts at Paramount don't even know if that's true yet. So it might just be a footage screening. But tonight, the fan event might, with a big M, the first screening of Star Trek Beyond.
I'm just going to spoil it for you right now and go, it's just footage. Just footage.
I'm thinking it's just going to be footage. I don't even know if it's finished yet. But the inner nerd is definitely going like,
that would be a cool thing to do.
I may pee my pants.
All right. Well, maybe I'll have to make some calls this afternoon.
So I think that would be something, if you are free tonight, you might want to come along.
Yeah, or I might need to contract out a freelancer to cover it.
Hey, who could that be?
You never know.
Hey, Josh. Who's available for that?
I just assume that somebody already has you getting some words out of that thing. But if not,
but yeah, so I'm actually going to be there. And
we'll
they've
talk
said
after
that
the
I
show.
can do pictures and I can do some live tweeting. So if you are a fan of Star Trek, you probably want to follow at Showbiz Simon this evening for some stuff from this fan event, because there's a chance that it might be kind of a big deal, which is great. Which is super exciting. So I think we're going to end the show there on that bombshell and minor nerdgasm. Josh, thank you so much for joining us this week. Where can we find you on Twitter, Josh?
I'm at JLD Light. That's at JLD, which are my initials. LITE.
How Vinding Refn of you.
NWR. I got to start making up stuff for that.
Yeah, I know. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Go to my Twitter feed. I'll make up some NWRs today.
And I'm Simon Thompson. I was in for Jeff this week. I'll be back to co-host duties next week. Thank you to everybody who called in, and thank you to everybody in the chat. Great show. Really appreciate it. Tell your friends. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the videos. Do whatever you need to do. Just tell more people that we're here and doing this. We would really appreciate that. I will be back next week with Jeff. Until then, have a great week.
So long.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.